It's Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Butch with Keon Rose. Long weekend, right? And after Saturday, it felt just a little bit. We are obviously, you know what the subject of the day is. Tennessee, South Carolina. We're gonna get into a little bit of Georgia and Florida, and obviously a little bit of talk about Game 6 of the World Series. The Cubs hanging around, staying inside of this one, which is very much unlike the Cubs, especially since the Indians actually got, the first run of that game scored. And the Indians pitch well enough. If these guys get on the board first, you almost feel deflated. They pretty much are unbeatable when they score first because of how well they pitch. They were able to get to Bauer a little bit. The Cubs were score some runs, a lot of bunting, a lot of look, let's just get the ball in play and see if we can't get on the board. And they did. They were able to get on the board. They ended up winning that game 3-2. And now we have Game 6. It's going to be a tough one for them tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Also, Tennessee talk. I mean, that's what we're really here for. We'll do the World Series stuff later in the show, closer to the end. But really, I got to talk about Tennessee, man. But before we do that, let me talk to you about where you can find us. Where can we find you? I recommend social media. Hot News Talk Radio. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a favorite. That's it. That's all you got to do. You've got Hot News Talk Radio in your life. We're the leader in local sports, news, traffic, and weather, all bundled up together. And, of course, make sure to check us out on our website, Noogaradio.com, if you want to stream everything live 24/7, 365, which you can also do on our Facebook page, by the way, just as an FYI, just also, if that's something that you felt so inclined to do. You can also check us out on the TuneIn Radio app, which gives you the ability to take Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go, even if you leave the state, even if you leave the country, as long as you have service and or internet, you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio on your phone. Get the TuneIn Radio app and search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite, press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio. And the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. I want to ask one question that I really had. Because this game, Tennessee, South Carolina with the upset victory over Tennessee, 24-21. I'm sure you knew that already. Dashed the Vols' hopes of really winning the SEC East. They'd need a miracle to win it, despite whatever it is that Butch Jones was rambling on after the end of that game. We'll talk more about Coach Jones a little bit later as well. But, for as many questions as this game spawned, the big question that everybody has is, what the hell was that? I mean, honestly, there was not one part of this game to watch where, if you're a Tennessee fan, it was something that you could be happy about. It was infuriating everywhere. Okay? Everywhere. All over the field. It was upsetting. And we're talking about offensively, it looked painful. Ball couldn't move anywhere. Josh Dobbs, look, I have defended Josh Dobbs, and I continue to defend him because I looked at that game, and one thing that I noticed was and actually the announcers of the game were commenting on it as well. Not enough early action for Josh Dobbs. Not enough first down, second down passes, quick passes. We know what Josh Dobbs is at this point, right? The guy that he is the guy that he is. He's not super accurate. He doesn't have the strongest arm. And he's a really good runner. He is fairly accurate when he's got time. So you need to get him into positions where he's throwing quick passes, where he's throwing slant passes, where he's getting that rhythm going a little bit. He never got that rhythm going. And while I want to look at him and blame him for the abysmal play that he had because he was throwing balls behind receivers, late passes, both of the interceptions would have been catchable passes had he thrown them on time. He didn't, and they were picked off. And because both both defensive backs made plays to pick those passes off. I'm not taking anything away from South Carolina. Those guys made plays, but they would not have been plays available for either of those guys if Josh Dobbs had thrown the ball on time. It was late. It was behind his receivers both times, especially the second one, which was particularly egregious because I think it was Josh Malone that he had wide open, and he underthrew him by a lot. He threw it late and underthrew him. Darius King just happened to be running by. Like, he wasn't looking to pick off that pass. He just happened to be running by and made the athletic play and grabbed it down. So Josh Dobbs didn't play well, which I think is ultimately the more frustrating part of this. Anytime quarterbacks don't play well, that person is the figurehead and the face for all the struggles with the team. But Tennessee couldn't run the ball. Jalen Hurd looked ineffective. Dude looked dinged up. And we're going to talk about Jalen Hurd a little bit later as well, because the rumors that he's transferring out of Tennessee, which if you're Tennessee, it's like everything that's horrible is just happening to you all at once. It's like your girlfriend dumped you, they towed your car, and you got evicted all in the same week. It feels like that if you're Tennessee. And to add insult to injury, Jalen Hurd transferring away from Tennessee. But one of the things that is interesting to note about how it was that Tennessee ended up being so ineffective on the ground, especially, was Hurd was not playing well. We ended up going with Kelly. Alvin Kamara was out for the game. And Kelly wasn't playing poorly, but we didn't even have enough of that action where we were running with Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs made some plays off of some runs. He had a huge one in, I believe, the second quarter of the game where he broke off a big run, but nothing productive, really. And it's interesting because Tennessee, as this team was being built by Butch Jones and as this team was being put together, running was the calling card for what this offense would look like. But we have a problem, right? When our running backs aren't healthy, you've got way too much of over-reliance on the offensive line, which we know to be undersized and we know to be small and we know to be heavily injured and we know to be not particularly all that strong. So you're like, well, where's the push coming from? What is justifying all of this running on first and second down? Because what ends up happening when you run on first and second and don't pick up anything on first and second, and they didn't pick up much, is that now you're throwing Josh Dobbs into a situation that's third and long. And like I said before, we know who he is, right? It's not like one of those things where you don't know what the guy can do. It would be like if one day you woke up next to your wife and you just expected her to have an entirely different skill set. Look, if your wife couldn't cook before you married her, maybe she could learn how to cook, but possibly she just doesn't know how to cook. So don't ask her to make dinner every night. Just a really, really weird example. But I'm just saying, you don't put people in positions where they can't succeed, right? Like if you have a kid in a class, that kid's great at math, he's not so great at English, you want to give him a confidence boost, you don't send him to the board to spell stuff, right? You don't put people in positions to fail, and I think Josh Dobbs got put in a position to fail in that game. Which brings us to Butch Jones, who, after the game, started rambling on incoherently in the swath of cliches and coach speak that he traffics in, and you hear it, and I'm not a Tennessee fan. I don't know how it is that you all process this, but I know that if this were my team, I would be livid. I would be angry. I would be upset. And the reason I would be livid and I would be angry and be upset is because Butch Jones doesn't seem to get it. And I don't mean it at an X's and O's level, which there is some of that there because some foolishness happened in this game in a situational perspective that didn't make any sense. But even without all of that, Butch Jones doesn't seem to get it. And I'm not saying that he doesn't get it, okay? I'm not a coach. I've never coached the game. I just like watching football a lot, and I watch a lot of it. But what I mean by that is Butch Jones and his coach speak has actually given him Jay Cutler syndrome. And what is Jay Cutler syndrome? Well, look at Jay Cutler's face. What is the first thing that you want to do to Jay Cutler's face? Punch it. You want to punch his face. Why do you want to punch Jay Cutler's face? Because he never changes his facial expression. It's the same. If the Bears are winning, Jay Cutler's face is meh. If the Bears are losing, Jay Cutler's face is meh. And that's his face. And I can't imagine being a teammate of Jay Cutler. You're losing by 30 points. He's thrown another interception. And you just want to know that the guy cares about the game as much as you do. And his face is eh. And you just want to punch it. You just want to punch him in his Jay Cutler face. Okay? Butch Jones talking is like Jay Cutler's face. When he starts saying words, you just want to punch him. Not because he doesn't mean what he's saying, not because he's not earnest, not because he doesn't get the game, but because he sounds like he doesn't. Because every week, it's certain individuals have to step up. We need leadership. We need whatever. I think one of the things he said that made me so mad was there is plenty of football left. Believe me, as I sit here in South Carolina today, there's plenty of football left. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, there is plenty of football left, but none of it is meaningful football now. Okay? Florida could, foreseeably, right, give Tennessee somehow a chance to win the East, which would just make the East about as abysmal and horrid as it's ever been. Like, we've been talking about this widening gap between the SEC West and the SEC East. The East will have been as bad as it's ever been. And you got Butch Jones talking about, well, there's plenty of football left. Yeah, but probably not. Not of meaningful football. What are you drinking, man? Don't drink that stuff before press conferences. It's dangerous. Yeah, there's plenty of football left, but it's not meaningful football now. You had expectations this year. And I understand that there's a certain level of, like, really, y'all thought the Vols were this good? You really thought that they were this good? Yeah, I thought that they were this good talent-wise. They were talent-wise. If you just look at the guys out there on the field, right? Because people are piling on Josh Dobbs now. And it's easy to pile on Josh Dobbs now. But at the beginning of the season, he was ranked a top 10 quarterback in college football. He was ranked in the top 10 with Chad Kelly, who is arguably not in the top 10 either. We all thought the Vols were going to be good. And when they played early and they struggled early, there was some level of, we have to get beyond this. We have to get past this. We have to get around this that you thought was just going to happen over the course of a season, because it happens. You start off, you start to gel, your team overcomes adversity, and eventually they click and it clicks into place. I know that this is a thing because I have seen it. Right? So I don't think it's fair to say, like, we all thought Tennessee was going to be bad. I'm a big proponent of you are what your record says you are. And when Tennessee was 5-0, did they win ugly? Sure they did. Did they shoot themselves in the foot a ton? Of course they did. But that was a team that was finding ways to win when they could have lost in a number of different situations. They could have lost to Georgia. They could have lost to Florida. It could have happened. It didn't. That's the mark of a team that can overcome adversity. But now that the team is 5-3, I'm still saying you are what your record says you are. And all of the mistakes that made the Florida game close, and the Georgia game close, and the Appy State game close, and the Ohio game close, are now coming back to roost. The mistakes that made A&M close, and the mistakes that caused you to lose that game. Because quite frankly, A&M benefited from a number of your turnovers. The mistakes that caused Alabama to blow you out. You're a team that hung with Alabama last year. Just one season ago, that was a team that went, okay, we may not be beating Alabama, but we're in the same class with this team. Yeah, no, you're not anymore. All those things came back to roost. And I don't think that makes Tennessee suddenly a bad football team. They are an injured football team. They're certainly not a good football team now when you add all the injuries on top of it. And the fact that you've got 3 out of your 4 team captains injured, you've got a problem. Right? Shy Tuttle goes down in the game, and you're just like, man, our offensive line looked the most competent it's ever looked since he's been back, and down he goes again. I mean, it's been a rough season injury-wise to the point where even had Tennessee won the game, you'd have to wonder if they had enough to even make it to the end of the season and win the SEC East. I mean, you really did. There was a lot of injuries, a lot. And I'm not blaming the whole thing on injuries, but at the same time, you do have to take that stuff into account. There are some injuries there, which is why Butch Jones is safe. Butch Jones, the talk about Butch Jones being on the hot seat. This is what happens when you start winning, right? Because an Alabama fan, they don't know this because they haven't been losing in so long. The last time that they had a losing season or a season where they were in jeopardy of really being bad, they can't even remember it, probably, right? So here's the thing. If Tennessee started winning and you get this sense of, we expect to win here, we expect to be here. And when that doesn't all come to fruition, everyone is up in arms. Fire the coach, fire the coach, fire the coach, fire the coach. The coach is on the hot seat. He's on the hot seat. Look, his pants are on fire. And I'm looking at this situation and going, I'm not saying that Butch Jones is doing a fantastic job, but he's doing a pretty decent job for what he's got and with the injuries that he's gone through. And he has gone through a ton, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is where a lot of those blown coverages came into place. And you're starting freshmen out on DBs. Look, it was ugly. It was ugly all over the place. But Butch Jones is fine. His seat's warm. So certainly a little toasty. Got a toasty seat situation. But is Butch Jones on the hot seat? Look, I'm a Texas Longhorn fan. Now, Charlie Strong, he's on the hot seat. Charlie Strong is not expected to beat Baylor. But if he doesn't beat Baylor, he's gone. That's a hot seat. If the next game you don't win, you're gone. In fact, if he wins out, he might be gone already. That's a hot seat. Where Butch Jones is right now is a warm seat. It's toasty. If Tennessee continues to struggle throughout the rest of the season, say they catch an L somewhere between Kentucky and Vandy. What if they struggle against Tennessee Tech next week? Suddenly, you do have a situation where Butch Jones' seat is getting warmer and warmer. But up until that point where we see that if Butch Jones doesn't win his next game, he's out, the seat's not hot. But this is how it starts, though. It starts with the fans and the media asking, well, does he have a hot seat? Does he have a hot seat? Because we like that stuff. The fans don't like that stuff, but the fans want to do something about the losing. And the only form of agency that they have is to request that we fire the coach. I mean, that's really where fans tend to go first. Let's just go. And it's very interesting how that mentality works out, especially when you've got a good coach. Are there a ton of other coaches that you really want over Butch Jones that are available to coach right now? that you think could do a better job of recruiting and putting together the team that he has right now than him? Grass is always greener on the other side. Your coach is fine. He's not bad at coaching. He's really bad at talking, though. You want to punch him in the face when he's talking. That is just an absolute fact. Because if you hear more platitudes about, we've got to own this. Own what? Be specific, Butch. Stop just saying vague stuff again and again. That's what I think really hurts Tennessee fans and why they go after Butch harder than anybody else. But I've got more to talk about. Tennessee, South Carolina. Is there a quarterback controversy brewing in Knoxville? Next, like a Keon Rose.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. News Talk 1240.
A $500 gift card. $500? What? That's right, Bunky. A $500 gift card from a store of your choice. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If your listing proves a slowpoke, they will give you a $500 gift card. No one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City. Licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 423-551-EXIT and learn more. Terms and restrictions may apply.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Price is so low, the Lone Ranger has found the Gallop in, Kimosabi. Hey, silver, away! The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is. Hey, silver, away!
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Expect mostly clear skies to continue through your nighttime. Overnight lows comfortable again between 53 and 57. Now for your Tuesday, another very warm, dry day. Lots of sunshine. Could be another record breaker. Highs lower to middle 80s with more warm and dry weather expected through Wednesday. Looking for your dream home? McBride Realty can help. With decades of experience, they get big-time results with small-town values. Licensed for the tri-state area. Check McBrideRealty.com for their complete listings. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240. AM 1240. Hot News Talk Radio. With your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. Hot News Talk 1240.
All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guessed it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel off-road technology, Sonny Daisy. For your four-wheel drive and truck needs, stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hicks. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson.
News Talk 1240.
Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
I love NASCAR.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A driver on I-75 southbound near the Catoosa County and Walker County line struck a pedestrian with his car, hurtling him into the air and throwing him to the ground. The pedestrian was killed. He's been identified as 27-year-old Michael Neese from Kennesaw, Georgia. The suspected driver, Jordan Shelton, has been arrested. Georgia State Patrol says they're not sure why the pedestrian was walking along I-75. An 89-year-old woman and the owner of a bait and tackle shop were both victimized when an armed robber burst into the room, pulling a gun and demanding money. This happened on Bonnie Oaks Drive on Thursday at about 3 p.m. He's described as a black male who's 5'8", between 140 and 160 pounds. The Georgia Department of Transportation has finally finished a study on light rail between Chattanooga and Atlanta. And it says it could cost around $10 billion to construct running along I-75. Another route's been chosen which could potentially go through Rome, Georgia. If it's going on in Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the race front tire. Here's Mark Truex to the bottom. Waiting for what he wants to. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Here at live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
If you're a Tennessee fan, I imagine, and the Hot News hotline is 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. You can call in and weigh in with your opinion. But this is a game that was just hard to watch. It was messy everywhere, unless you were a South Carolina fan, in which case you've got a lot to be happy about. And South Carolina got the running game going a little bit, eased things up for one Jake Bentley. And one of the things to note about Jake Bentley is that he is a freshman quarterback, which is funny to me in as much as we were promised. We were promised the year of the running back, and we haven't gotten anything out of Hurd. Fournette, riddled with injuries. Nick Chubb, still injured from that ACL. Look, I contend to this day that he's not complete. He's not 100%. Okay, I understand that Nick Chubb is not human. He is a machine sent from the future to play football. I understand that. But even he needs to recover from horrifying ACL tears. Even him. And I didn't see the pop and explosion from him. Basically from week 2 on, we haven't seen that from him at all. Which is what happens when you return very early from a devastating knee injury. I hope he continues to get better, but if I'm Nick Chubb, maybe I just sit out the rest of the season and try and get right. I don't know how much of this is worth this, especially in a season where Georgia, look, you're not getting to 10. You're struggling to be bowl eligible. Is that what it is? I suppose there is some meaning to bowl games, because if you can't, quote unquote, even make a bowl game, people do look down on you for that. But honestly, they don't matter. So why are you destroying yourself trying to get to a bowl game here? I like that they're trying to still develop Jacob Eason. I like it. I think it's risky, because I don't know if we're going to see that leap forward. There's a risk when you start freshman quarterbacks. And Jacob Eason has shown a beautiful deep ball and not a ton else. And I was looking to see that kind of improvement as the season went on. Haven't seen it. But the year of the running back promised to us. And what we got is the year of the freshman quarterback. We got Jalen Hurts, Jacob Eason. You can add Jake Bentley to the mix. The game against Tennessee, Bentley 15 for 20, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. Didn't take over the game. He wasn't a monster, but you can't help but think, had South Carolina started the season with Bentley at the helm, because he is a much better passer than McElwain, whether or not we would be talking about South Carolina a little bit differently. Like if they were a better team. Because the feeling was, Will Muschamp's getting there. He's getting to this team that struggled a lot last year. They're not a great team. And they're going to struggle a lot this year because that's what happens when a coach is coming in and trying to rebuild. You just expected South Carolina to struggle. And then they really haven't. And the games that they've lost, they've been scrappy. They've fought to the end. Those games have been close. The games that they've won, they've been surprisingly efficient. I mean, I don't know if we're talking about the South Carolina team that we thought we were going to have at this point in the season, or the South Carolina team that we actually got, which is a team that's kind of found its quarterback, found its running back a little bit with Rico Dowdle, that groove there. The special teams are tremendous. Defensively, they have freshmen making plays. I mean, South Carolina is going to be good. You can mark my words on that one. South Carolina is going to be good. But one can't help but think that maybe South Carolina was the better team on that field yesterday, especially when you take into account the injuries that Tennessee had. But when you look at what Tennessee's got to offer, and you still have Josh Dobbs, who, when he's making either quick throws or has time to throw, is still making good throws. I mean, we saw that touchdown throw that he threw from about 25 yards out. That is the Josh Dobbs that people were hoping to see in that game, obviously, and we didn't see too much of him. But you still have Dobbs. You still have Jennings. You still have Malone. You still have Wolf. What's the problem? Like, you've got players on that offense. Is your offensive line the best? No, but you knew that. That's been the case all season. It's not shocking or new. But they didn't go out there and make enough plays. And I put some of it on Josh Dobbs. He had receivers that he underthrew or threw behind. And I get that, but he never had a rhythm. And that I put on the coaching staff. You can't have Josh Dobbs in 3rd and 11 trying to find the first down. That's not his strength. It's never been his strength. He's a senior now. And in the beginning, it wasn't his strength ever. Ever. Okay? You've got certain guys who do things, right? You're not going to ask Cam Newton to do the same stuff you're going to ask Tom Brady to do. They're 2 different quarterbacks. Why on earth is Josh Dobbs passing on 3rd and 8? Why are the balls running on 1st and 10? 2nd and 10. 2nd and 8. Running. And then when they don't pick up any yardage because both of their starting running backs are injured, Josh Dobbs pass, 3rd and long, sometimes 3rd and forever. These aren't his strengths. And if you look at some of those throws that he made, they were 3rd downs. Josh Dobbs was 0 for 4 heading into halftime on 3rd downs. Did not make a single one. That's not his strength. And you're the coaching staff. And you came off of a bye week. And this is your player. And you had a week to prepare. Will Muschamp was just dropping 8 in coverage because he didn't believe that Josh Dobbs could pick him apart. If Will Muschamp knows this about your offense, why don't you? Seems like Will Muschamp knows more about your offense than you do. And if you went for some of those quick passes early on, it doesn't matter that he drops back 8 because you're not trying to pick up 15 yards. You're just trying to pick up 4 or 5 yards. Keep the offense on schedule so you don't have to be trying to chuck the ball downfield on 3rd and forever and a mile. right? Like, that seems so obvious. And yet, it's not. And then you've got Butch Jones, and he's angry, and he's talking about the prideful players in the locker room, and everybody's responsible. I'm going to own this. The coaching staff's going to own this. The team's going to own this. And Butch Jones is not being specific of who is owning what, because that seems to be a very, very important piece missing from this entire conversation. If you hurt somebody and you apologize and you say sorry, you did not give them a good apology. Sorry for what? Say what? If you're going to be a man, if you're going to own something, if you're going to take responsibility for something, and say what? Butch Jones is out here running in vagaries and cliches continually, over and over and over and over again, which is what people don't like about him. I don't honestly think that anyone thinks he's a horrible coach, because he's not. I've seen horrible coaches. You've seen horrible coaches if you're a Vols fan. What do you want to do, Dooley all over again? You know what a horrible coach looks like. That guy's not a horrible coach. But what he is a guy that is so correct in everything that he says. He doesn't want to offend anybody or hurt anybody. And he doesn't end up offending anybody. He doesn't end up hurting anybody. But he does end up angering everybody by not calling out anybody specifically. He is infuriating everybody in general. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. He is, when he talks, his words are Jay Cutler's face. And it hurts to listen to. And I have to listen to this every single week to prepare for this show. I have to sit down and listen to Butch Jones go. Certain individuals need to step up and own stuff. And there's, like, he ran out, there's plenty of football left, the cliche, on a 3-loss season? What football are you imagining? Now, I'm looking down at the schedule, right? The Tennessee's entire schedule is winnable. The rest of it, it's been winnable. It was winnable before the South Carolina game. It's still winnable. They should have beaten South Carolina. Maybe not badly, but they should have beaten South Carolina. That's a team that they're better than. They get Tennessee Tech next week. Ought to win that one. They have Kentucky the week after. Ought to win that one. They've got Missouri the week after. Ought to win that one. They've got Vanderbilt last. Ought to win that one. But what I'm finding is Tennessee is in a position where they should win all the rest of their games. They should have beaten South Carolina and didn't. But they should beat Kentucky. But you know what Kentucky can do? Kentucky can score points. Yeah, and if you keep playing defense like you did against South Carolina, that's not about to be a very fun game to watch. And Vanderbilt, what's the one thing that Vanderbilt can do? Stop you from scoring points. And look at you. Your offense is looking like the most strugglicious thing with legs. Just absolutely painful to watch. It is like watching a car grind gears. It is unbelievable. Like, people share these videos on the internet, cat videos specifically. And there was this one video that just caught my attention that I could not look away from, even though I'm not one who watches cat videos, typically. And the video is of this cat. The cat is jumping on this trash can and balancing, which is kind of impressive. And then trying to run up this wall. But as it runs up, it falls back, and it falls back into the bucket, which is filled with water, which cats notoriously hate. But this cat is not a quitter, and the cat continues again and again and again, trying to jump up the bucket, jump onto the wall, falling into the water, freaking out, jumping out, doing it again and again and again. That is like watching Tennessee's offense. In fact, that is more enjoyable than watching Tennessee's offense, because at least there's a moment where you're like, wow, this cat is not going to stop. There's times where Tennessee's offense looks like it's going to quit. They're down 14-7 after the Josh Dobbs interception, And Josh Dobbs is on the sideline consoling guys. I understand you're a little bit disheartened, but you're down by a touchdown in the first half of a game. What do you need to be consoled for? I mean, it's great leadership on the part of Dobbs, but I mean, this offense has got a little bit of quit in it that I just am not a fan of. There's a little bit of quit there. I don't understand it. Can't wrap my mind around it, really. But it is hurting this football team and will continue to haunt this football team for the rest of the season as you think about what could have been. Right? Tennessee was the Cinderella story of the college football season. Everybody was paying attention to you all. It's a great story. People love great stories. Nobody wants Cinderella to actually have to go home, the glass slipper and all that, right? And there's still a chance that you could win the SEC East. There's still a chance that you could win the SEC title. And all that you would be doing is, I don't know, robbing Alabama of something. And that's if you could even beat Alabama in an SEC title game. With what's left of the rest of the season, there is no chance you get healthier. You get more dinged up as the season goes. So if your excuses are injuries now, what are they going to be 3 weeks from now when you're playing Missouri? I mean, at some point, you just have to go, we recruited great talent. We recruited all the 4 stars and 5 stars from Tennessee. A lot of them. And we're supposed to be dominant on a lot of parts of the field, yet we're blowing coverages in the third quarter. We've got 2 defenders. We've got 2 defensive players, covering the same guy. Blowing a coverage, giving up a touchdown. And that wasn't the only play that looked like that, right? Just over and over and over again, Tennessee's secondary letting them down. Tennessee's defensive line, which has been magical and awesome this entire season, kind of let them down. They really did. Because what the defensive line did was not a whole lot. Like Derek Barnett, you were looking for that guy to just pop off. And he did have some great plays, right? But one of his sacks was a play in which he was completely unblocked. Completely unblocked. I mean, you just didn't get enough pop from this team. The defensive line, they made plays, okay? I'm not going to make it seem like they didn't get to Bentley. They got to Bentley. They got to him a few times. But they never forced the big mistake from Bentley, who is a freshman. Cannot be noted enough. Who is a freshman. And he doesn't look like one of those superstar freshmen. Okay? He looks like a normal college football freshman. He even looks like this might be as good as it gets. And quite frankly, if you're Will Muschamp, you just have to be kind of cool with that. That's not a bad place to be if this is as good as it gets. Guy doesn't turn the ball over. He makes good plays. He's going through his progressions. He's making solid throws. And then you're looking at the other side and going, Josh Dobbs is a senior. He's throwing balls into the dirt. It was very, very Donovan McNabb at the end of his career-esque. That was a hard one to watch, man. He's throwing balls into the dirt. He's throwing balls behind guys. And you're watching him get further and further into his own head as his own coaching staff continues to put him in positions where he is obviously not comfortable. And I mean very obviously not comfortable. And now Jalen Hurd is transferred. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. Jalen Hurd is transferring. To add insult to injury. Jalen Hurd doesn't want it. And my question is, does this not affect recruiting on some level? Because Jalen Hurd is one of the core players that this team was built on. That you're supposed to say, okay, with each coming level, guys are going to buy in, like Jalen Hurd bought in, Josh Dobbs bought in, and Derek Barnett bought in, and Juwan Jennings bought in. And Jalen Hurd has unbought in. He has given up his seat at the table. You know what I mean? And I don't know how much this affects recruiting because like you've got recruits who are looking at this season, looking at this team struggle through every game. Okay, even the victories look like struggles. For once Tennessee played a game and they lost because they deserved to lose. I think they deserved to lose that Georgia game the way that they played. They gave themselves a chance to win. Georgia gave them a chance to win, and they took it. That's what good teams do. But when you play the way Tennessee has been playing, it's a matter of time before the law of averages catches up with you. And all those good feelings and good vibes, they go away. Because you're no longer winning. That is a gigantic issue and a clear problem. Especially for the squad. And I don't know what you do if you're them. But there's a lot of things that you need to fix there. I hope that they don't do the players-only meeting. The dreaded players-only meeting. The players-only meeting, what does it actually fix? Except offer proof that your locker room is jacked up. Because I've seen it in too many different sports where all that does is prove your locker room is messed up. The World Series, heating up, getting very interesting. You can catch it on Fox Sports 1, I believe. No, it's just Fox. It's just it's on Fox. Game 6 of the World Series. It's going to be Josh Tomlin starting for the Indians. Jake Arrieta starting for the Cubbies, who have hung on in this series because after winning Game 1, the Indians took it and made it feel like this was just going to be Indians the rest of the way. And one of the things that is very interesting to note about how the Indians play is that they're not at all flashy. It's a huge departure from, the way the Cubs play. The Cubs do kind of play that flashy baseball. They do chase home runs, right? One of their athletically freakiest players, Kyle Schwarber, who cannot play right now simply because he cannot field. And I'm sure they can't wait to get back to an American League Park and give Schwarber a real chance at this. But the Indians are completely unflashy. They're boring in that way that people have always long accused the San Antonio Spurs of being boring. Just dry. They get one run and they're good. And they will sit on their 1 or 2 runs till basically the end of the game. Right? They did have 7 runs, I believe, in Game 4. But Kluber was on the mound, and they didn't really need 7 runs. They didn't need 7. They got 7. But make no mistake about the way that the Indians play, they did not need it. But they keep finding offense from all kinds of different weird places. And what's coming up for the Cubs in Game 6 is a chance to add some offense of their own, because I find that the Cubs' offense is not very reliable. Like, they can score. And you've got Joe Madden as a manager, and what he is having this team do is just weird, random stuff. And Joe Madden's philosophy is kind of like what the Royals did last year, except the Royals weren't doing it because of their manager. I feel like they're just a team that went rogue and just did whatever they wanted to and ended up being in a position to win the World Series because everything that they were doing was just defying conventional baseball logic. Joe Madden doesn't defy conventional baseball logic. He knows what conventional baseball logic is, and he goes, okay, it's just not going to work here. He's more forward-thinking than wild card, I think, because I don't think there's any way you fix the Chicago Cubs. And even when he was with Tampa Bay, get Tampa Bay to be as good as they were under him. Like, he was a great manager with the Rays. The Rays were horrible. And once he left, they returned to being horrible. Right? You add Joe Madden to the mix, and Madden is able to do a whole lot of things by simply